When I first met Leo back in 2012 at Arizona State, he was this scrappy, witty guy who used to joke that the best degree was socializing. I was a pre-nursing student, head down, working 2 jobs and barely sleeping, but somehow he broke through. He had this way of making the world feel lighter. I fell hard. Fast forward 11 years, and I guess I thought we'd already weathered all the storms. I was wrong. After graduation, I went straight into the grueling hell of clinical work, overtime shifts, and clawing my way up the nursing ladder. Meanwhile, Leo bounced around, first working at a vape shop, then a warehouse, a couple of DoorDash stints, a brief fascination with crypto that ended in disaster. Every time he hit a wall, I picked up the slack, paid for his community college classes to retrain in healthcare, paid his car insurance, paid rent. I told myself it was fine because someday he'd get it together. Someday. In 2022, I finally landed my dream nursing job at a hospital in San Diego. With bonuses, night differentials, and some brutal overtime, I was pulling close to $390,000 a year. Leo stayed behind doing gig work, barely scraping $30,000. I didn't mind being the breadwinner at first. I told myself love wasn't a ledger. I also told myself his weird little comments were just jokes. Like when he said, "Women are like cars, you know? Depreciating assets after 30, and then winked at me like it was the funniest thing ever." Or when he'd mock my friends who marched for reproductive rights, calling them baby killers under his breath. Or when he rolled his eyes at my obsession with politics and muttered, "The country needs a strong man back in charge." I laughed it off. He's just stressed, I thought. He's depressed. It's the economy. It's the pandemic. It's burnout. I thought I could fix it. We got engaged on a windy December night by the beach, standing under a lamppost that flickered like something out of a Nicholas Sparks movie. He was shaking so hard I thought he was going to drop the ring. It was imperfect and messy and very, very us. I said yes without hesitation. But that night, as we celebrated, he joked about how lucky he was to lock me down before I hit my wall. I should have known. I should have listened to the tiny voice that screamed, "This is not okay." For the first few months after we got engaged, everything was about the wedding. The venue in La Jolla, the Pinterest boards, the endless calls to caterers and florists. I paid for almost everything, telling myself that once Leo finished nursing school, we'd both be able to breathe. But somewhere around spring of this year, Leo started changing. He'd always dabbled in edgy forums and podcasts, the Joe Rogans, the Tim Pools, but lately, his feed was wall-to-wall with these screaming, red-faced men talking about real America and taking our country back. I caught him listening to conspiracy theories at 2 a.m. I'd walk in on him glued to live streams about rigged elections and the decline of traditional values. At first, I laughed it off. "Babe, why are you watching this trash?" He shrugged. "They tell the truth. Not like the lamestream media you believe." That word, lamestream, made my stomach lurch. It wasn't just a joke anymore. He started posting cringy memes on Facebook. "Let's go, Brandon," bumper stickers magically appeared on his beat-up Hyundai. He wore a red, "Make America Great Again" cap to the 4th of July barbecue I threw for our friends who were mostly queer, liberal, immigrant, and absolutely horrified. He saw their faces, he saw my face, and he laughed like it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. Later that night, when I begged him to please just take it down a notch, he rolled his eyes. "You can't take a joke anymore," he said. "You and your woke friends are the problem." I stood there in our kitchen, holding the dish towel, feeling like I was talking to a stranger who hated me. And still, God help me, I stayed. I told myself, it's stress. It's temporary. He's frustrated. He'll come back to me. Then came the night everything snapped. It was mid-August. We were eating takeout on the couch, and the news was on in the background. Some breaking headline about Trump's latest indictment. Leo cheered. "They're only making him stronger," he said. "Finally, someone who'll fix this broken country. Protect our rights." "Our rights?" I said, setting my chow mein down, hard hammering. He nodded seriously. "Yeah, men's rights, free speech, gun rights, real freedom, and women's rights?" I asked, my voice cracking. He shrugged. Women had their turn. I stared at him. At the man I thought I'd known since I was 19 years old. The man I almost created a life with. "Leo," I said, voice trembling, "I'm a woman." He smiled. That awful, vacant smile. Exactly. That night I cried in the shower until my skin went numb. I curled up on the tile floor, water scalding my back, and realized He doesn't see me anymore. Maybe he never did. The next morning, I called my best friend Danny, barely able to get the words out. Call it off, she said instantly. You don't have to marry him. You don't owe him your life just because you invested years. But it felt like being trapped in quicksand. 11 years. All those memories. All that hope. When Leo noticed me pulling away, sleeping on the edge of the bed, barely talking, he exploded. You're really going to throw everything away over politics? He shouted, slamming his palm on the counter. Over some stupid election crap? I told him it wasn't about politics. It was about values. I told him I couldn't marry someone who thought women's rights were negotiable. Someone who laughed at sexual assault victims. Someone who looked at my body and saw a ticking expiration date. He begged. He threatened. He cried. I'll be homeless, he said. I'll have nothing. I almost wavered. But then he said something that made the decision irrevocable. He sneered. Good luck finding a man your age who still wants you. And in that moment, every ounce of pity, guilt, and doubt inside me crystallized into something hard and permanent. I packed his things. I gave him until the end of the month to leave. He called me cruel. A monster. A brainwashed sheep. I stayed silent, because there was nothing left to say. The night after I gave Leo the notice to leave, I sat alone in the bedroom, staring at the blank white walls. The house felt different now, hollow, like every memory had been stripped out of it. Even the framed photos on the shelves seemed to mock me. This is what you built your life on. This is what it crumbled into. I barely slept. The next morning, Leo was gone when I woke up. No note. No call. His phone pinged my location about 40 times that day, though, obsessively checking my whereabouts. I turned off location sharing. Blocked his number. Changed the garage code. I knew he wasn't just sad. He was desperate. And desperate people are dangerous. That evening, he showed up at my doorstep, wild-eyed, hair a mess, wearing the same hoodie from 2 days before. I can't do this without you, he said. I'll change. I'll go to therapy. I'll be better. When I didn't let him in, he dropped to his knees on the porch and started sobbing so violently I thought he might throw up. Neighbors turned on porch lights. Dogs barked down the street. I cracked the door open an inch. You need to leave, Leo, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Please, go to your mom's. That's when he said it. If you leave me, I'll kill myself. It hit me like a punch to the gut. Because here's the ugly truth they don't tell you about emotional manipulation. It doesn't come with flashing warning lights. It comes wrapped in fear, in pity, in the part of you that still wants to protect the person who hurt you. For a split second, I thought about caving. But then I remembered all the nights I cried alone, all the ways he chipped at my confidence, all the jokes about women like me having no value past 30, all the cheers when the rights of people like me were trampled. I knew if I let him stay, if I let guilt win, I would lose myself. I told him I was calling his mother. I called her right there, on speaker. I told her what he said. Within 20 minutes, she was at my house, helping me get him into her car. He screamed at me the whole time, slurred insults, wild accusations, until the tires screeched down the street. When the taillights disappeared, I finally exhaled. My legs gave out and I sat right there on the porch, shaking. I sat there for hours. The stars were out. The ocean breeze smelled like salt and sorrow. My engagement ring sat heavy on my finger, burning against my skin. I pulled it off and set it on the step beside me. By morning, I pawned it. Got just enough to cover a few therapy sessions. In the days that followed, the group chats exploded. Our friends, almost universally, took my side. Leo's unmasking had been slow but undeniable, 1,000 tiny betrayals until the final collapse. His best man, a guy he'd known since middle school, texted me, "I'm so sorry. I should have seen the signs." We all should have. His sister sent me a long, tearful voicemail, apologizing for not believing me when I first told her about the jokes and offhand comments. The wedding venue refunded part of the deposit after I showed them the text Leo had sent me the night he left, text so vicious, so drenched in misogyny, that the event coordinator said she'd never seen anything like it. Everything was unraveling. But strangely, I felt lighter. Free. For the first time in over a decade, I wasn't carrying someone else's dead weight up the mountain. Leo ended up moving back in with his parents in Temecula. From what I hear, he spends his days rage posting online and picking fights with anyone who mentions liberals or nurses in any context. I heard through a mutual friend that he tried to show up at my hospital one night, but security turned him away. I filed a formal no-contact order the next day. I wasn't taking chances. Not anymore. After Leo left, life didn't magically fix itself. The house was too quiet. I kept expecting to hear his footsteps, his off-key humming, the way he'd leave the bathroom door open like he lived in a barn. It took weeks before I stopped flinching every time the doorbell rang. The first Friday after everything, I came home after a 14-hour shift, dropped my bags on the floor, and just stood there. Empty. Directionless. This was supposed to be the year I got married. Started a family. Built a future. Instead, it felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me and I was just floating. Weightless. Untethered. I didn't know how to be alone anymore. I didn't know who I was without the years of we. At first, my days were pure survival mode. Wake up, work, sleep, repeat. Then slowly, something changed. I started small, redoing the bedroom. I ripped the engagement photos off the wall. Sold the massive bed frame we picked out together. Painted the walls this deep, rich navy, the color Leo had hated. I donated all the furniture he liked. Replaced it with bright colors, strange textures. Things I liked. Things that felt like me. My friends rallied around me in ways I didn't even know I needed. Danny showed up every Sunday with takeout and wine, and we'd binge bad reality TV until we passed out laughing. My coworker Hannah brought me succulents in tiny pastel pots, because plants don't yell at you for having opinions. I cried when my brother, who usually treats emotions like a contagious disease, drove all the way down from Oakland just to sit on my porch with me and drink beers in silence. You're not alone, their actions said, even when their words stumbled. It mattered more than I can explain. 3 months after Leo left, I finally did something I hadn't done in years. I went to the beach by myself. It was late October. The air was sharp, and the sand was cool under my feet. I watched the sun sink into the ocean like a molten coin, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I let myself dream. Not about a wedding. Not about babies. Not about building someone else's dreams. Just about me. About the nurse who fought her way through night shifts and pandemic hellscapes. About the girl who put herself through school when no one thought she could. About the woman who survived loving the wrong person for too long and still had more love to give. Maybe not today. Maybe not even soon. But someday. I was starting to feel like myself again. That's when the letter arrived. A simple white envelope. No return address. Slipped under my door while I was at work. Inside, a single page. Typed. No greeting. No signature. You ruined my life. I hope you rot. No one will ever want a bitter, used-up woman like you. My stomach dropped. I knew immediately it was from Leo. No one else would have chosen those exact words. Those exact wounds to poke. The police said there wasn't much they could do unless he escalated, but they added the incident to my existing no-contact file. That night, I slept with the lights on. The fear was back, crawling up my spine. And worse, the doubt was back, too. Maybe he's right, a voice inside me whispered. Maybe you wasted your good years. Maybe you're bitter. Maybe no one else will ever want you. I hated that part of myself. I hated that after everything, after surviving him, I could still be haunted by his words. But healing isn't a straight line. It's jagged. It's messy. It's taking 2 steps forward and then collapsing onto your kitchen floor at 2 a.m. after reading a stupid letter from someone you don't even love anymore. And it's getting up the next morning anyway, and brushing your teeth, and going to work, and living, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. It happened 2 weeks after the letter. I was coming out of a late shift, my scrubs wrinkled, my hair in a messy bun, my backpack weighing down one shoulder. The parking garage was half empty, the fluorescent lights humming above me. I didn't see him at first. I was fumbling for my keys when a shape moved out from behind the stairwell. Leo. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him. Gaunt. Hollow. Like whatever held him together had frayed to the last threads. His hands shook slightly at his sides. Can we talk? He asked, voice hoarse. Every muscle in my body screamed no. But some part of me, maybe the part that had loved him once, maybe the part that was still stupidly soft, stayed frozen. I nodded once, stiffly. He didn't come closer. Maybe even he knew that would be a mistake. I'm sorry, he said, his eyes rimmed red. I'm sorry for everything. The words didn't hit the way he probably hoped. They felt weightless. After everything, the emotional whiplash, the threats, the guilt, sorry was a balloon with a leak. I stayed silent. He twisted his hands. I know I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. Still silent. I was scared, he said, his voice cracking. I felt so small, and you were doing everything right, and I wanted to blame someone. Anyone. Finally, I found my voice. It came out low and rough. So you blamed me. He flinched like I slapped him. You blamed me, I repeated, stepping forward now. You blamed immigrants. You blamed women. You blamed anyone you thought was taking something from you. He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. I fought for us. I paid for your classes. I covered your rent. I bent myself in half to believe you would catch up someday. And when you couldn't, when you didn't, you turned it into my failure. Tears welled in his eyes. You're right, he whispered. I failed you. And for one horrible, gut-wrenching second, I almost pitied him. Almost. But pity is not love. Pity is not trust. Pity is not enough to build a life on. I'm not your redemption arc, I said, my voice steady. You don't get to dump your broken pieces at my feet and expect me to rebuild you. He sagged against the concrete pillar like he couldn't hold himself up. I still love you, he said. It was meant to be a plea. It felt like a chain. I don't, I said. And it was the truest thing I'd ever said. I walked past him, past the wreckage of everything we were, everything we could have been, and I didn't look back. Not once. I got in my car, locked the doors, drove away with my heart hammering in my chest so hard it made my vision blur. At the next stoplight, I pulled over, parked under a flickering street lamp, and screamed. A raw, keening sound ripped out of me, not because I missed him, not because I regretted it, but because grief doesn't care whether you made the right choice. You can mourn a person and still be glad they're gone. You can love someone and know they're poison. You can choose yourself and still feel broken afterward. I screamed until my throat burned. Then I wiped my face, took a shuddering breath, and kept driving. The next day, I changed hospitals. Transferred to a smaller clinic an hour away. A fresh start. I adopted a dog, a mutt with one ear that sticks straight up and one that flops over, who wags her tail so hard she trips over herself. I planted flowers in the backyard. Bought new sheets. Joined a book club. I wasn't okay yet. But for the first time, okay didn't feel like an impossible dream. It felt like something waiting for me at the end of the road. Something I could reach if I just kept going. It's been almost a year now. Sometimes, I forget what Leo's voice sounds like. Other times, it sneaks up on me, a whisper in the back of my mind during an ordinary Tuesday. Healing isn't neat. There's no parade, no magic day where you wake up and the past evaporates. It's 1,000 tiny moments. Choosing yourself over the memory of someone else. Choosing peace over chaos. Choosing the future over the past. In the beginning, it felt like failure. I wasted 11 years, I thought. 11 years for nothing. But slowly, I realized something. It wasn't wasted. Every hour I spent loving him taught me something about what love should and should not feel like. Every compromise I made taught me what I would never, ever compromise again. Every tear I cried built the foundation of the woman I am now, stronger, fiercer, softer in the right places, harder where she needs to be. I didn't waste 11 years. I survived 11 years. And that survival became the soil for something better. Here's what I know now. You are allowed to leave when love turns into war. You are allowed to walk away even if you made promises. You are allowed to choose your soul over someone else's comfort. Sunken cost isn't love. Guilt isn't love. Fear isn't love. Love is a partnership, not a rescue mission. Love is walking beside each other, not dragging one behind the other. My house feels different now. The walls hold new memories, laughter that's real, silence that's peaceful. Sometimes, I catch myself dancing in the kitchen while making coffee, and I realize I'm not performing anymore. I'm not shrinking myself to keep the peace. I'm not measuring my worth by someone else's inability to see it. I'm just living. I started dating again recently. It's terrifying and beautiful and awkward and thrilling. But here's the thing. I'm not dating to fill a void. I'm not dating to prove anything. I'm dating because I finally feel whole enough to choose, not out of desperation, not out of loneliness, but out of genuine, hopeful choice. And if it works out someday, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Because I know now, I'm already enough. I always was. Leo? Last I heard, he moved to Nevada. Started working at a gun shop. Still posting angry memes online. I don't wish him well, but I don't wish him harm either. I just don't wish it all. He's a closed chapter. A scar, not a wound. I'm not angry anymore. I'm free.